Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining me today because we are going to meticulously map out a truly terrifying psychological decay. We're looking at the haunting, gothic tale of the captain of the Morning Star. It's this fascinating, dark journey from the comforting light of Victorian reason straight into the crushing, absolute black of the abyss. We are going to take a deep look at exactly how the human mind shatters when it's forced to confront the terrifying, cold logic of the deep sea.
A conscious hunger that views the living not as people, but as inventory for the deep. Let me ask you something. When you look out at a lighthouse shining through the darkness, do you feel safe? Or are you, perhaps, merely inventory, just waiting to be collected? That chilling, incredibly theatrical thought is the exact perspective we're adopting today to understand the twisted philosophy of the water vampire. Act 1, the Victorian Light. Okay, let's dive right into this. You see, to truly understand the dark, we first have to understand the light. We need to travel back to a time when the universe still felt like a safe, manageable, well-lit manor. We're going to start our psychological autopsy with Freud's concept of the superego. Before his transfiguration, the captain's mind was completely, 100% ruled by this psychic faculty. His superego commanded this rigid, brass-and-clocks devotion to Victorian duty. For him, it wasn't just a job, it was literally a divine mandate. He saw himself as the ultimate protector, using that lighthouse to preserve life and maintain an impenetrable shield against what he saw as the nomadic anarchy of the untamed sea.
This entire mindset was built on what we can call the stone of certainty. The Victorian ideal was all about order, right? The universe was this benevolent, well-lit manor overseen by a celestial father. His Fresnel lens, that massive, brilliant glass optic of the lighthouse, was quite literally a tool of salvation. It was a shield holding back the chaos of the ocean. His moral compass was basically carved in stone, rigidly guiding him to protect the living. There was absolutely zero ambiguity. The light was good, and the dark was bad.
Act 2, the Jungian collapse. But stone eventually erodes when it's exposed to the tides long enough. Let's move into the twilight of his mind, where the cold reality of the ocean starts wearing away that brass and clocks identity.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the role of the ego. The ego is supposed to be our pragmatic mediator. It bridges the gap between our internal desires, our societal duties, and the harsh outside world. But during this maritime transfiguration, the captain's ego suffered a total Jungian collapse. As he started to really witness the grim geometry of the coast, the uncaring brutality of the water, and the literal Hades lurking in the depths of the human mind, his ego just completely, violently failed. It could not naturalize this terrifying truth. It simply couldn't reconcile the safety of the well-lit manor with the sheer horror of the dark abyss.
Let's walk through the actual mechanics of this psychological death step by step, because it's fascinating. First, he witnesses the grim geometry of the deep, the true, uncaring scale of the ocean. Second, his ego fails to naturalize it. It just breaks. Third, that rigid Victorian superego we talked about is violently hollowed out. And finally, the empty vessel is refilled with saline ichor. In this gothic transfiguration, his ego literally becomes an inverted instrument. Instead of trying to steal the night to keep people safe, it now operates with a predatory dilemma. His compass needle has flipped. It only points downward now, directly into the cellar of the world.
Act 3, the conscious hunger. And with that, the light is completely lost. I want you to plunge with me now into the dark waters of the Sargasso Rift, down to a place where all human logic entirely shatters.
We have arrived at the id. Now, Freud described the id as the primitive, impulsive part of our psyche. But here it manifests as the literal forbidden basement of existence. It's a dead space older than the sun and the moon. This is the jealous god of the abyss. Its primordial thirst demands that absolutely every single gift the light has ever offered be returned to the dark. And remember, this isn't just a force of nature. It's described as a conscious hunger.
Just look at this stark comparison. This shows you exactly how completely the id has overwhelmed his psyche. On one side, you have the Victorian guardian, defending the manor and shielding life. On the other side, you have what he has actually become, the universal collector. He doesn't serve order anymore, he serves the nomadic energy of the sea. His whole purpose has shifted from saving souls to harvesting the salt-heavy dead.
The living aren't even people to him anymore. They are simply inventory to be gathered for the deep. Act 4. The Dinner Bell. So the crucial point we need to look at is the horrifying synthesis of this entire transfiguration.
The light which guides the sailor home is merely the inventory clerk's candle for the silence of the deep. Wow. I mean, this is an absolute, total rejection of the Victorian ideal of commerce, safety, and human progress. The very tools of salvation have been utterly recontextualized. They are now instruments of the abyss. The lighthouse is no longer a beacon of hope, it's a trap.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate terrifying reality of his mental collapse. For the water vampire, the artificial sun, that massive, brilliant Fresnel lens, is a dinner bell. He doesn't polish that lens to save the living. He polishes it so it screams an invitation to the restless slough, the spirits of the unforgiven dead. It's a deeply twisted sense of maritime hospitality. The light is specifically designed to draw the ships in, not to guide them to safety, but to feed them directly to the hungry dark.
So this leaves our captain in a profound state of what we can call moral uncanny. As the water vampire, he now stands as a monument of bone. The idea of salvation is perfectly inverted. The boundary between life and death isn't some rigid wall of stone anymore, it's as fluid as the ocean tides. This dark philosophy completely strips away all of our human arrogance and acknowledges the sea as the one true master of all who wander.
Which brings us to the very end of our dark descent today. I want to leave you with this final, rather unsettling thought. The next time you find yourself lost in the dark and you see a beacon of light cutting through the blackness, ask yourself, are you actually finding salvation, or are you merely answering the dinner bell of the abyss? Thank you so much for exploring this Gothic transfiguration with me in this explainer. Stay curious, stay observant, and perhaps beware the light.